Hey there everyone, welcome to another video. This is going to be my November TBR. So it's going to be quite an ambitious TBR this month because on checking my Goodreads account, I'm supposed to read another 18 books by the end of this year if I'm going to hit my goal of 75 books. It's quite a lot of books to read in 2 months, although it is doable. It's definitely doable if I just knuckle down. So I'm really keen to do it. I managed to read 70 books last year and I would really like to hit my goal this year. But I had a bit of a slump mid-year, so we're a little bit slow. But this can totally be done. This can totally be done. So that's my goal for the next 2 months, is to read at least 18 books. I'm gonna do this, guys. I'm gonna do it. If I say it enough, I will believe it. So for November, I have 11 books that I'm hoping to get to. Some of these might drift over into December, but I'm really hoping to power through a few of these. Because I know if I knuckle down and get through a few of these books, I can get closer to reaching my goal. So yep, as per usual, these are a mix of audiobooks, ebooks, and print books. And let's just get started. So the reason I think this goal is definitely doable is I'm technically in the middle of 3 books. Well, I'm actually in the middle of 4. But I'm not really including the 4th one at the moment. Long story. So I'm in the middle of 3 books at the minute. So I really feel like I'm kind of good start into the month. So hopefully in the next few days I'll actually have another 3 finished books. So we'll start off with the ones that I've already into. One book that I've already started, I started last month but I haven't finished it, but is Dance with the Devil by Sherrilyn Kenyon. So if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I've been doing a bit of a reread of this series. This is number 4, I believe. 4? Yeah, 4. This is number 4. This one is about Dark Hunter called Zarek. And he's pretty much hated by everyone. The gods think he's too violent and should be put down. The other Dark Hunters think he's an arse. Unsurprisingly so. He's not exactly the friendliest chap. But basically he was stationed in a bit of the wilderness in Alaska. He has no company, no squire, no anything. He's just expected to do his job, slay the daemons, and basically keep everyone's way. And he's basically feral at this point. He's got no people skills, and yeah. So it's come to the point now where the goddess Artemis, who is the one who creates the Dark Hunters, has decided, no, I've had enough. I'm done with him. He's basically getting put down. We're going to send people out to terminate him. I don't want him around anymore. And so she's, like I say, she's the one that creates the Dark Hunters, but the guy who kind of runs the Dark Hunters is called now it's either Acheron or Acheron. I never know how to say it. We're gonna go with Acheron. So he is kind of the one. He kind of like is their manager. He kind of runs the business, tells them where to go, that kind of thing. But so he's always had a bit of a soft spot for Zarek. And as much as he agrees he's got issues, he doesn't want him just to get killed. When a Dark Hunter gets killed, they become what's called a shade, and basically they don't die or go to peace. They just wander the earth as like a ghost who feels pain and hunger and cold and thirst but can't slake any of these things, and basically it's living hell. So he really doesn't want this fate for Zarek. He thinks that there's something in there worth saving, and so basically they agree that they'll get him like judged by someone unbiased. This is where Astrid comes in. So Astrid is I think she's the sister of the Fates, and they want her to go in into his life and judge him to see if she thinks he's worthy to stay alive, essentially. And Artemis is pretty pleased, with picking Astrid, because she's never judged a man innocent in all of her cases. She's always judged them guilty. So she thinks it's a sure thing, Zarek's going to get put down. But Acheron thinks, no, Astrid's fair, she'll give him a proper chance. If anyone can see the other side of him, it's her. So basically that's the setup. Astrid's going to go in, meet Zarek, and see if she thinks he's worth saving. Obviously these are kind of dark paranormal romances, so you know, it's tended to be expected. There's a little bit of a flirtation there. But anyway, this book is not one of my favourites in the series. I adore the series overall, but I always remember this one as being one of the weaker ones. But yeah, I'm still happy to be reading it again. And I think I'm probably about halfway through this one. So this one I should finish pretty soon. I'm kind of just reading it before bed, because it's something I've read multiple times. It's kind of like a comfy blanket, so it's kind of a nice one just to read before bed, because I know nothing's really going to shock me, because I do vaguely remember what happens. So that's when I'm reading this one. I should definitely finish this by the end of the month. The next book that I'm in the middle of is called Also Human. And I'm reading this one as an audiobook. I'm listening to this one as an audiobook, and that I got from my library. And Also Human is by Elton, I believe. And I'll put a picture up on the screen somewhere. It's one that's basically about doctors, and actually from the title, Also Human. It's basically showing that doctors, although they have this kind of image about them where they're kind of like off to the side, they're unbiased, you know, they're like above regular problems, basically. Doctors have always had this kind of image of being off to the side, impartial, you know, compassionate but unemotional. And Caroline in this book is kind of trying to show that they have problems like regular people. Medical training is rife with issues, sexism, racism. The way that junior doctors are taught is inherently flawed, and yeah, basically that there's a few things within the medical profession that really ought to have changed by now. She's a psychologist that doctors go and speak to if they're having issues. So she's spoken to different doctors in different specialities at different stages of their career, and she's kind of compiled some stories together from her patients and kind of just showing the flaws in the medical profession. And yeah, that's that one in a nutshell. So I started listening to that last month. And I'm yet to finish, but I think I've got 3 or 4 hours left of that audiobook. So again, that should be one that I should finish in the next few days. And I will let you know how I get on with that one, but so far, I'm enjoying. The last book that I'm currently in the middle of is an ebook from NetGalley. So I've gotten this one in return for an honest review. So this one's called The Stranger in My Bed, and this one officially is released near the end of the month. So I've started reading this one, like I say, as an ebook, and the concept of this one is there's a married couple, Phil and Freya Keaton, yes, and they've got a really volatile marriage, and it's kind of gone from love at first sight down to, you know, things getting chucked at each other, raging arguments, storming out. It's not basically the best marriage at the moment. And after one particularly blazing row, where a vase was smashed against the wall and Freya and Phil both ended up bleeding, Phil stormed out and said, "No, can't deal with this anymore." And he drove off into the night and got into a car accident. Freya, not knowing this, she also was packing a bag. She's like, "No, that's it. Can't do this anymore. We have to call it quits." And then she finds out that Phil's been in an accident and he's in hospital. So, as you would, she goes up to hospital, and he can't remember anything from the last couple of years. So as far as he's concerned, they're still happily married. None of the arguments and violence and none of that's happened yet in his mind. None of that's happened. So she's sitting there like, oh my goodness, he doesn't remember any of this stuff, and she's obviously feels a bit weird around him. The last thing she remembers is them having this massive argument. And the last thing he remembers is coming off the plane from their honeymoon. So they're in completely different headspaces. And she feels like, oh well, she can't leave now because, you know, he's in a really vulnerable position, and he also doesn't remember any of the stuff that she was leaving him for. So it's kind of an interesting one. I really like the premise of this one. I thought, okay, right, well, what would you do in this situation? She's like, okay, do I still leave because of what's happened, because obviously even though he doesn't remember it, it's stuff he has done, or do I try and do a fresh start? I know kind of what happened, so if he doesn't remember, then maybe we can get a fresh start and get back to the way we were. So that's her kind of dilemma, and she decides to give things another go. And I think, you know, we can obviously say it'd be a very dull book if things was all happy as Larry from there. But yeah, it's an interesting concept. So I think I'm about 45% through this book. And again, really enjoying it so far. It's very, very easy to read and quick at the moment, so I'm enjoying that very much. So hopefully that one, again, should be finished, I'd like to say by the end of this week. But back to print books, if you watched my last video, which will have been my most recent book haul, you will have seen this one. So this is Thoroughly Whipped by Tillie, and this is like one of her romantic comedy kind of books here. It's just a standalone, and basically the main character, Faith, is a sex advice columnist for a magazine, and she has some big feature coming up where she's got to delve into the, you know, the sort of seductive side of Manhattan's elite and go into some like sort of clubs and infiltrate that kind of life and write a big feature on it. So as you can see, she's got a little whip there in the cover. So that just sounds like so much material to be hilarious there. And also, just to throw a spanner into the works, there's this chap from her past called Henry Sinclair III. He comes back into her life and is now her boss, and she's not happy about this. She describes him as crashing back into her life like a bad case of herpes. And yeah, I'm sold. I think that sounds hilarious. It sounds like my brand of humour, and I'm very excited to get to this. There's literally not a Tillie book that I haven't liked. Most of them I absolutely love. So I'm very excited to get to this because I know she's going to make me laugh out loud with this book. It just sounds fantastic. So very excited to get this one soon. I might even do a reading vlog for this one. I've got such high expectations for this one, and I'm really excited for it. So I feel like it might be good material for another reading vlog. So the next book on my TBR is one from an author that everyone's heard of by this point, Riley Sager. So his most recent release is called Home Before Dark. I've not read any of his books, but I now own them all. If you again watch that book haul, I now have all of his books, and I hopefully would like to read them all maybe by the end of the year. I'm really intrigued by his books. They sound like right up my street, so I'm going to give them a go and see if they live up to the hype, as we say. So Home Before Dark, as far as I know, is basically about a haunted house, which, you know, pretty good for autumn. Maybe I should have done that. Maybe I should have read that one for Halloween. But so this one, like I say, is about kind of a haunted house. This family lived in a big scary house for a few weeks and then fled in the night, and the dad wrote a tell-all book about it, and then the daughter ends up getting the house. I think the father possibly passes away and leaves her the house, and she has to go back there and kind of see what she remembers, kind of a thing. So I don't actually know a hell of a lot more about it than that. I've heard very good things about it. I don't have the book in front of me as an ebook, so I can't actually check up all more details. But like I say, I've heard really, really good things. I've heard it's really spooky and really interesting, and I'm very excited to get to that one. So yeah, that is definitely one of my most anticipated reads for this month. Going back to non-fiction again, one of the other books that I'm going to listen to as an audiobook is called The Worry Cure. This is quite a short audiobook, and it's actually a recommendation from a friend. And basically it looks into sort of patterns of anxiety and kind of why we get that urgency in anxiety and kind of ways to sort of change our thought processes, that kind of thing. I've read quite a lot of these books just because anxiety is something that I've struggled with, and it's something of an area of interest of mine, so I'm going to give that one a go. And also it's nice and short, so I should manage to get that one under my belt pretty easily, so that's a good thing. So another couple of books on my TBR for this month are also books that I've received from the publisher via NetGalley, so I'll just give you a quick run through of those. They're all kind of the thriller mystery kind of setup, which is kind of what I'm in the mood for at the minute. So the first one is Dead Girl Walking by Roberta Gately. I think I got this wrong in my last video too. So this is a story about an ER nurse who has a patient that's been attacked come in, And there's kind of a bit of a few weird circumstances around her attack, and she becomes kind of really interested in trying to figure out what happened to her. And so she's got a friend who's a detective called Sam, I think. Is it Sam Bailey? Quite possibly. So she ropes in her friend and tries to figure out what happened to this woman, which I think is a little odd. I'm not sure about this premise, because why would a nurse be getting involved kind of in why a patient was attacked? I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where I'm curious, but I'm also dubious about it. But I want to see where they go with this one. So she ropes in her friend. She wants to find out what happened to this this patient. I think her name's Anne. And I feel like she was found with like rose petals around her or something like that. Yeah, I feel like rose petals play a part in this. So the nurse, I can't for the life of me remember her name. I feel like her name's Jessie. Jessie something? Anyway, this nurse starts to get the impression, and there's like some clues left, that she's potentially the next victim of whoever attacked this patient. So it's kind of a, is she going to be able to get control of the situation, or is she dead girl walking? Is basically the concept, I think. So like I say, this I think could be either really good, or it could be kind of naff, and I want to see which. I'm interested. I want to see if they're going to make this work. So that's one of the books that I'm going to be reading and reviewing for this month. Then we have another one that's very similar, except this time it's a mortuary assistant. But it's kind of the same kind of thing. There's this mortuary assistant. Oh, I should tell you about the book, actually. It's called Body Language by A.K. Turner. And this one, like I said, is about a mortuary assistant who is kind of done the job for a while, but then the next body that turns up on her slab is of a friend and mentor that she's known, obviously, and she's like wanting to find out, what happened to her friend, because obviously it's kind of personal to her. And I think it's possible that they think it's like an accidental death or something, and she's like, no, there's something more sinister to this. So again, it's that kind of still, like, someone's been attacked and the main character's trying to figure out what happened. It's the same kind of premise as before. Although at the back of this one also made a comment about the mortuary assistant, that she potentially has the power to hear the last thoughts of the dead, which I don't know if that's, she can genuinely like hear thoughts from a dead body, or it's just a way of saying how she finds out what happens to them through her postmortems. I'm not sure exactly if there's like a spooky element to it or not, but I guess I'll find out. But it's bothering me that I don't know. I feel like I want to read a few reviews and figure out if there's actually a spooky element to this, because I hate going into books not quite knowing what to expect, and this is bothering me. But we'll see. I don't know. I probably will look at reviews. I'm going to be honest with myself. But I don't really mind either way. I would just rather know. So watch this space and come and see my wrap up at the end of the month to find out if this woman can actually hear thoughts from dead bodies or not. That's something to tune back in for. Or maybe just check out Goodreads. And the last ebook that I've gotten from the publisher is My Sister's Child. No, it's not. It's Her Sister's Child. So in this one, it's different from the other two in the fact that the main character is a woman called Paula, and her sister Lizzie had a secret pregnancy, and then not long after the baby was born, it went missing, and then a few days later, Lizzie turned up dead. So all this is very strange, and she swore she would find out what happened to the child, and this has obviously been plaguing her life for like the last decade. And then suddenly, she actually finds out that someone else maybe knew about the pregnancy, and it wasn't actually as secret as she thought. So maybe she will find out what happened to this baby, and there's another avenue for her to look down. So this sounds really, really interesting to me. I love kind of unraveling like an old mystery kind of thing. So I think this one could be really, really good. Another book that I'm going to be reading this month is a book that I've gotten from my library, and this is called We Regret to Inform You by, it's either Ariel or Ariel, Kaplan. So this book is about this teen called Misha. I'm not even going to attempt to say her last name, it's something really, really long. But her name's Misha, and she's kind of a top scoring student, got a bright future ahead of her, does everything right kind of person, and she gets rejected from every university that she applied to, even her safety school she didn't really want to go to anyway. So she's absolutely devastated and is totally lost, because she's like, well, what do I do now? So in this book, she tries to figure out why this happened. Why did she get rejected from everywhere. So it says that she's going to shake things up in her investigation. So this will be really interesting. Obviously it could be something actually caused her to get rejected, or maybe it'll end up being one of those things where she has to kind of figure out what to do next. I'm not really sure what the direction is they're going to take, but I'm interested to give this one a go. Back in my school days, I was a total nerd and would have been beyond devastated if I didn't get into any universities. So yeah, I can kind of relate to the horror of this. I got into university, the one I wanted, the course I wanted, all fine. But yeah, I could totally relate. This was like the worst fear having when you were at school. It was like, oh, if I don't get in. So like having this happen, I'm curious to read a book kind of based on that. So, and to finish off, we have one more audiobook that I'm hoping to get round to this month. This is Everything But the Truth by Gillian McAllister. And this one, I don't know much about because the blurb at the back didn't give a lot away. But it is about this couple, Rachel and Jack. So Rachel finds an email, something to do with Jack's past that he's not told her about. And now she's like, what else has he been hiding? And she basically goes down this rabbit hole of trying to find out some sort of deep hidden secret. And yeah, that's literally all I know. I know nothing more. But it's gotten some kind of good boosts from authors that I know I like. So yeah, I'm hopeful that this is going to be one of those page turner gripping types. But yeah, not one that I know a lot about. I may pop into a couple of reviews to get a bit more of an overview. But I still think I'm going to read it regardless. It's got some good reviews, so we'll see how that one turns out. So that is my TBR for November. Like I say, I've got a good mix of different genres and different mediums in there, and I hope to have a very successful reading month. I am determined to do so. And then hopefully I will see you again soon when I have my wrap up for these books at the end of the month. If you like this video, give it a wee thumbs up, it really helps, and hopefully I will see you again soon. Bye!